Who is Alex Steeves? If you're a Toronto Maple Leafs fan, you've been hearing this name pop up everywhere, but if you don't know who he is or why we're talking about him here today, hey, sit down, this is the video for you. So what we're referring to here is the Toronto Maple Leafs development camp that just ended off yesterday. Development camp is only for prospects, so you're not going to see the Matthewses and the Marners and all of them go over there and do their thing here. That's reserved for training camp. And in fact, some of the best guys from this development camp will likely get opportunities to play in training camp as well, where they'll fight with some of the best players in the organization for spots on the full-time team. If they don't make it, then hey, it's AHL for you, it's CHL for you if you're a CHL eligible player, it's loan to Europe, it really is just a grab bag of wherever. But either way, the Toronto Maple Leafs development camp wrapped up yesterday with a few scrimmages with some pretty notable names. Nick Robertson is probably the biggest star when it comes to the names on the development camp list, as he was a pretty hot topic ever since being drafted and doing really good things in the OHL and then making his debut. We all kind of know the Robertson story now, don't we? Alex Steeves was another guy who, at development camp, showed himself off as a very noteworthy name. And in fact, we had ourselves a whole bunch of articles published on the Hockey News, Sports Illustrated, discussing Alex Steeves and the entire body of work that he had done at development camp as well. It was made all the better yesterday when Team Blue in the scrimmage ending off development camp, which featured both Steeves and Robertson, had themselves a 6-0 victory over Team White, with Alex Steeves scoring 4 of the goals. He hit him with the 4 like Austin Matthews over there, and a chunk of these goals were actually assisted by Nick Robertson. You could see the chemistry develop between these two guys immediately after they stepped out onto the ice, which is really interesting because they had never actually played together before. This is a quote from Robertson himself. This is from an article here on the Hockey News. "I never really got the pleasure of playing with him until today, actually. It's pretty crazy how we have the chemistry like that, just like that." It's not even the scrimmage yesterday that happened, too. We had ourselves scrimmages the entire 3 days of development camp, and Steeves was going out there with highlight reel goals, slipping by goalies, just going inside, outside, and potting it up high, snipes where he comes in on the wing and just rips it by, and Nick Robertson was there every step of the way. Here's a quote from Steeves talking about Nick Robertson, his newest line mate. "Off the ice, I would say I really appreciate his kind of killer instinct and his mentality. You can just tell by looking at him that he's a super driven person." There also was the entire conversation that Haley Wickenheiser talked about when it came to dialing back Nick Robertson and the intensity that he plays with, and Steeves said this: "I just appreciate that because I feel like I'm the same way. I've been told at times that I've been too intense, so I can kind of think I relate to Robertson in that way too." When it comes to Steeves, Wickenheiser said this: "To me, he looks like a pro player on the ice. He is a man the way he is built off the ice. His conditioning is quite far down the line." Here's another perspective from David Alter, a writer for the Hockey News. Alex Steeves is a man amongst boys so far at development camp. So, who exactly is this guy? He came out of nowhere, and now all of a sudden he is at development camp. He's made a name for himself. Everybody's talking about Steeves and Robertson. Robertson is probably going to play with the Leafs next season. What about Steeves? Is he an NHL player for next season? Is he a lock for the top 6? Who is this guy? What is he about? What's his profile? Well, let's go over that all here today. Alex Steeves is a 21-year-old, 5'11", 185-pound forward who was born in December of 1999. Which means he was technically eligible for the 2018 NHL Entry Draft, but he was not drafted. Back in 2017-2018, he was a point-per-game player for the Dubuque Fighting Saints in the USHL, which is honestly a pretty good number. In fact, the scouting outlets actually had him ranked. He was ranked 148th by ISS, 113th by Future Considerations, McKeen's had him at 118, and NHL Central Scouting had him as the 86th best North American skater. Despite this, though, he did not go in the top 217. He was not drafted, and he made his way over to the NCAA the next season, where for the University of Notre Dame Fighting Irish, he put himself up 9 points in 39 games. Now, that number isn't really great, which is kind of why he wasn't drafted as an overage player in his second year of eligibility. Then, in his third year of eligibility, he was okay, but I mean, he had 28 points in 36 games played as a sophomore for the Fighting Irish. It wasn't really enough to give himself a draft spot, and as a result, he went back to the Notre Dame Fighting Irish as a junior in 2020-2021, where he put up 32 points in 29 games played. He had 15 goals as well on the year, which was actually really cool because you saw some of the goals this guy was able to score. He was tipping in goals, he was sliding it in through open lanes, he was getting rebounds, he was sniping it. He had a really good slick skill set, and it allowed him to make some really cool highlight plays. There were some goals where he would absolutely just roof it on the backhand after toe dragging it by the opposition. Alex Steeves put himself in a position where he had some really good NCAA highlights. Eventually, he signed a contract with the Toronto Maple Leafs, and he is now on the system until 2023-2024, making $800,000. He's 21, so he's definitely still pretty young, and if you take a look at some of the scouting reports from NCAA scouts, this is what they say. Here's that same article from Sports Illustrated, the hockey news, talking about Alex Steeves and what some college scouts were talking about him. He attacks like a barracuda. Some guys want the puck, but he really wants the puck. I think the Leafs can utilize him in a big way in the bottom six. This is what another scout says about Steeves getting an NHL opportunity after being passed over in the draft. I thought he was going to get taken in 2019, but his skating wasn't great. I think he has taken big steps to improve, but it still is his biggest inhibitor. And so, even though Alex Steeves is a guy who had himself some pretty fair concerns, I would say, throughout his development as an NHL prospect so far, right now, he is the hottest name at Leafs development camp, and alongside Nick Robertson, the two have formed a really good pairing that honestly makes an argument that says it could be somewhat effective once training camp comes around. Now, obviously, you're not going to go out there and say that Alex Steeves is guaranteed a spot on the team because he was great at development camp for the prospects. In fact, it's even written over here in the Hockey News article that Steeves is unlikely to make the team at a training camp and should head over to the Marlies come October, but do not be shocked if the big club finds a spot for Steeves sometime in the 82-game regular season stretch. As it stands, Steeves might not even be a top 10 prospect in Toronto's system, but his inaugural professional hockey training camp was a positive one, and as he gets used to playing against men, there could be the potential for Steeves to force his way into the conversation sooner rather than later. So again, by no means a lock, but he still is a guy that is worth talking about. And to end off this video, I just wanted to talk about one more thing over here, because when it comes to Steeves and the way that this guy was signed, a college free agent who was a good point producer and who came over to the Leafs development camp and was absolutely ballistic, he had himself an interview where he spoke about the entire negotiation recruitment process from Kyle Dubas and the Maple Leafs coaching staff as well. He said this when they were recruiting him and asking him to join their team. When they showed me clips that they had watched of my game, and they showed me guys in their organization and what their vision was together, I was blown away. And you know, even though a lot of people like to harp on the Maple Leafs for being an analytically driven team, oh, they're an analytics team that doesn't like grit and they like small guys who have skill and all that, even though people like to make fun of the Leafs, ironically and partially unironically too, because of that, you have to give credit where credit is due over here. The Maple Leafs do indeed have themselves one of the richest departments of player development in the entire National Hockey League, and as a result, it allows them to go out there and take a look at extra tape. You know, we have a few extra guys, we have more employees than other teams do, so here we go. We'll start our scouting on NCAA guys. Here's this Alex Steeves guy. Look at the way he maneuvers around the ice. Look at how he transitions from offense to defense. Look at how he does this. Look at how he does that. This kind of profile looks like it would work really well with this Nick Robertson guy that we already have in our system. Let's try to take a look at the two styles and analyze whether or not these could work together, and maybe we'll pitch it to Alex as to whether or not it would be a good idea. And they did it, and he was surprised, and he was like, yeah, they did a really good job at scouting me and finding guys in their organization wherein my system and my style of play complements what they already have. And it looks like they did a really good job in executing it so far in the preliminary stages of development camp for the prospects. And again, I get it, it's kind of an overreaction to make a video about this, about an NCAA free agent who is just signed, who's 21 years old, who's turning 22 by the end of the year, and who hasn't really done anything at the pro level yet. But I mean, come on. Toronto, they're talking about this guy all over the place. Let's talk about him here too. So talk to me in the comments if you're a Leafs fan. What do you think about Alex Steeves based off of what you've seen so far, based off of the articles that we have read, based off of the Toronto Maple Leafs prospect development camp thus far? Do you want to see this guy make the team? Do you think this guy's going to make the team? If not, how long does he stay in the Marlies before he gets a shot? Is he even going to get a shot with the Maple Leafs this entire season? Or is he just going to be the top Marlies guy for 2021-2022 before maybe making the team the year after that? Who really knows? Plus, if you're a fan of the Notre Dame Fighting Irish in the NCAA, tell me in the comments, what is your scouting report on Alex Steeves? Do you think this guy has NHL projectable-like qualities based off of what I've seen? I think so. But if you're a Fighting Irish fan, please tell me in the comments in full detail what your opinion is. Talk to me in the comments about all this stuff and everything else in between. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.